Hello and welcome to the Coaching for Self-Belief podcast with Andy and Pete. And so Andy, what have you got for us this week?
Well, Pete, there's something that I've been thinking about in my own personal development as a coach, and it's fully listening to someone's experience. Give you an example of what happened. I asked somebody for their experience, what did you notice? And they started to explain a few things, and then I'd made up my mind very early on, listening to their experience. Right, so that's what we're going to pay attention to with awareness. So I'm going down the right track, trying to increase awareness. But she carried on talking, and when I looked back, because it was videoed, I looked back and she said, well, maybe it's lifting my racket a bit higher, which indicates a follow through. And I completely missed that, and it took another 10 minutes before I'd listened to another exchange where she mentioned the follow through. So for me, it's really listening fully to the experience with a very open mind, and not formulating anything too early in terms of focusing.
Yeah. Or if you have an idea based on your expertise, it's sort of just putting it on the back burner and really drawing out as much as you can from the student's experience.
Yes, but I think in this case it was I was listening to her experience, but then I wanted to jump in too early before she'd finished speaking about her experience. So there is that technical part, where we've got a lot of expertise, and we can also do that, like you're saying, listen with that in mind. But that isn't really listening to the experience. So I think for me, it's just really going right to the end of the experience.
What drawing it out completely
is valid too, isn't it? That somebody comes along and they've made up their mind, and I think that's like listening with filters on, like we've often described it, isn't it? Listening with a filter on, so you kind of are not fully listening because you've already made up your mind what you're going to come in with.
Yeah. So then for me, it's is it possible to develop a skill of, okay, I've noticed something technical, but I can shelve that and really put all of my attention as the coach on the student while they share what they have to offer from their experience. And then I get to a choice point where I can say, well, I noticed something as well. Would you like me to share this now, or shall we explore what you've come up with first?
Yeah.
Which keeps them in charge and sort of changes the energy of the whole coaching dynamic, doesn't it? It engages the student more because it's the energy of a discussion, perhaps more than just I'm telling you what's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And this listening to the end as well, this listening for somebody's experience, I found very challenging with a couple of people this week because of their inability, if you like, to be aware. And I've been listening for any snippets of anything that I can hear from them, like, well, yeah, it was good, or yeah, I like that one. And then when I say, well, what did you like about it, or what felt good? Well, not sure. So then we go hitting a few balls. And I really enjoy the challenge of then a few balls later saying to them, what did you notice on that one? And they'll go, yeah, perhaps I wasn't so aggressive. Ah, aggressive. So that's what you've noticed you are. Okay. So then I've got something I can ask them about. I can say, okay, on the next few balls, would you like to just notice how aggressive you are? But for some people, so this is what makes the listening really not just challenging, but it's actually enjoyable because I'm challenging myself as a coach to listen more fully, without any sort of interference, from my ego self wanting to step in,
or maybe not even your ego self, just your technical knowledge.
My knowledge, yeah, which maybe I'm going, I want to share this because I know a lot about it, but really listening to the end, yeah.
So that ties in with one of the coaches that I mentioned in the last podcast we did, and she describes it that for her it's asking an open question and engaging the pupils more is finding ways to ask a question that doesn't have a right or a wrong answer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's how she
Well, that will
describes it.
go a long way to helping you go into the listening scenario. You know, without any blinkers or filters on. You know, you've got, what else can you do but listen?
Yes. So it's, you know, the difference between a closed question and an open question is, you know, a closed question is, you know, uh, did the ball go in the net?
Mm,
So there's a right and a wrong answer to it.
mm,
But an open question would be, you know, what did you notice about what was happening to make the ball go in the net?
yes. Yeah.
It's such a
And then
difference. And this is what she's reported back working with the kids, that when she talks about an aha moment where she actually realized that that was the secret to engaging the kids more in the discussion, was to find that way of asking a question where it wasn't a right or a wrong, and then they felt safe
yeah.
that they could just share their ideas,
Sure.
and they light up, and they love it, and they're
Yeah.
engaged as a
Yeah.
result of that. So I wanted to,
And the summarising and the reflecting back what they've said just helps them to feel safe and able to.
yeah, and it builds their confidence as well,
Mm,
because
yeah.
you're showing that you value their opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not going to put your mark on it. You're going
Yeah,
to you value them. Yeah.
and the fact that you're listening as well, and listening to the end of what they say,
Mm,
also shows that you value their opinion.
mm,
That you're not listening and slightly distracted because you can't wait to tell them what you've spotted about the technique,
yeah.
and they sense that. You know, everyone has this ability to pick up on non-verbal body language, and you know, anyone can tell if you're slightly distracted, if you're not
Mm,
listening fully, or if part of you's you know, waiting to say what you want to say.
mm. So I'm just
People
thinking, you
tell.
know, one way that perhaps coaches could practice this with partners or friends is just to ask them, you know, how was your day today? How did it go? And just make it your give the other person a minute or two to speak, but really give them your attention, you know,
Mm.
and really listen to what they're saying, and don't make any judgments. Just ask them another question. Oh, so what happened then? You know, but be interested and be curious, and just see how it goes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then there's the thing around, you know, how you are as a coach in terms of your non-verbals and the kind of the energy that you put across, which is
Mm,
connected with this whole thing of open questions. And
mm,
you know, just to ask yourself, you know, when you're talking to a student, am I in the energy of discussing something with my student now, or am I in the energy of telling them something?
mm.
And it's not I think this is really important as well. It's not that it's wrong to tell people things. That's not what we're saying at all, is it?
No,
And
no.
and that we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and you know, all of the fantastic technical knowledge that we've spent years acquiring, that's important and valuable. It's just a question of how can you present it at a useful time and in a way that engages the student rather than puts them off or cause
Mm,
interference.
mm. And I suppose that energy is that when you ask an open question, that you've got to feel comfortable with listening. So
Yeah,
you've asked a great question where there's no right or wrong answer. Okay, so you've asked the question. Now you've got to listen, and you have to feel comfortable with that. And I guess going back to what I said right at the beginning was I would perhaps wasn't feeling so comfortable with listening, and I wanted to just jump in a little bit, or you know, perhaps I was jumping in to an area that was of interest, but if I'd let the person finish to the very end, I might have picked up more information and then made a better intervention.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And it actually, for me, that's what made my coaching more interesting, because I had more to learn,
Yeah,
to find out about how I was coaching rather than the what I was coaching.
sure. Yeah, which is great. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
the language that we use as well, just using little softeners, what the difference between saying, it's your swing, and saying, well, some people look at it like this, or I'm wondering if it could be this,
Mm, mm,
or, well, I've noticed this, I'm not sure if it's right. Well, see what you think. Do you want me to
mm.
share that with you now?
That's right. Yeah.
And
So
that
it's
kind
giving
of
them
language
choice.
is the language of open discussion, which
Mm,
engages people, and they feel valued and more confident,
mm,
versus saying, shutting it down and saying, this is how it is, this is the right way to do it.
absolutely.
Because,
Absolutely. I mean, I keep referring people to the Coaching Kids for Self-Belief YouTube channel now, where we put a few videos up just demonstrating this approach. And with the LTA endorsing a coaching and mentoring scheme now, which has kind of gone full circle because it's what we've been doing for 16 odd years or so. But now that they're recognizing the advantages of this approach in terms of, for them, it's the bottom line is getting more people playing tennis alongside happier coaches, more fulfilled head coaches that feel more in charge of their businesses. Um, so and then therefore, if it can be done there, why can't it be done on the tennis court, which is what we've been doing for
yeah,
16 years? So if we
that,
can join these two things together, obviously a lot of skills to learn, but really, once you've got them, they're really good skills to have.
yeah, so it's an understanding of the inner game principles, that
Mm,
mental interference is a problem that,
mm,
you know, coaches can look at as a priority problem to see if they can
yeah.
fix that first, and then if you do that, that knocks out a lot of other ways of approaching things and actually makes the learning quicker. So
Mm,
recognizing interference is a major priority thing to look at. And then it's the skills of non-directive coaching, what we've said, about listening, asking good questions, and drawing out as much as you can from the pupil's experience to add that to the mix
mm.
of your own technical knowledge. And so then you have a decision to make, whether to uh, draw out, or whether to uh, add
Offer.
your own technical
Mm,
knowledge.
mm,
And that's the coaching dance that David Emery introduced, the idea of the dance between the push and the pull,
mm,
that they're both equally valid, equally
mm.
valuable. And the skill of coaching is just realizing when's a good time to push and tell somebody something, when's a good time to pull and get their experience and use that.
Absolutely. So hopefully, with all these podcasts, we're just giving snippets of information that can be useful, and we'll continue to do that. But we hope you find this useful. I think there's a lot that we've included here. So, I
Can you
mean, for
think of
me,
a
if I could just
kind of
sum
a
up,
can you think of a wrap up, that some
yeah.
coaches can take from this podcast and just have a go at
I think if we just talked about listening skills.
listening to the end?
I mean, my experience here, which obviously I'm sharing here, and you can take what you like, I guess. But what I did find really useful is when I asked the question, is just to go, right, I've asked the question. Now, the next step is to listen, but listen to the end of the person's experience.
Mm.
The little child trying to hit a forehand topspin, or the adult trying to punch a backhand, or just what did you notice? And then they'll listen, and then, as you said earlier, you can either offer something, or you could go with something that they've experienced, and that's what I would say.
Mm. And I would say notice if you're pushing or pulling, or if you're in the energy of a discussion, or are you in the energy of telling?
That's good. Energy, I like that. Yeah.
And just to notice that, and play around with it, and see what happens when you coach in those two different energies, if you like, those two
Yeah.
different modes, and
Mm.
notice the effect it has on the student, on their engagement. You know, which one works to engage the kids, and which one lights them up and makes them
Sure.
feel better and enjoy the learning more.
But pay attention to your energy levels around your communication.
Mm.
Excellent. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that, and see you
Yeah.
next time.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.